Let me tell you something that most people will never understand until it is too late. There is a room inside every human being, a quiet room, a room with no noise, no distractions, no opinions from the outside world. And the moment you learn to enter that room, my friend, your entire life begins to change. Most people spend their whole lives running away from that room. They fill every silent moment with noise. They fill every empty hour with distraction. They are afraid of what they might hear if they sit still long enough to listen to themselves. But here is what I want you to understand today. The quality of your life will never exceed the quality of your relationship with your own thoughts. And you cannot build that relationship in a crowd. You can only build it alone. Think about it. When was the last time you sat in complete silence, with no phone, no television, no conversation, and just allowed your own mind to speak to you? For many of you, it has been years. Maybe it has never happened at all. We have become a generation that is terrified of solitude. We mistake loneliness for solitude. And because of that mistake, we run from one of the greatest gifts ever given to a human being. Let me explain the difference, because this difference will change how you see the rest of your life. Loneliness is when you are alone and you feel empty. Solitude is when you are alone and you feel full. Loneliness drains you. Solitude builds you. The successful man or woman is not the one who is never alone. The successful man or woman is the one who has learned to use solitude as a workshop, a place where the raw material of the mind gets shaped into something powerful. Here is what most people do not understand. Every major decision that changed the direction of your life was made in the moment of quiet reflection, not in the middle of noise and crowds. Think back. The decision to change your career, the decision to leave a relationship that was hurting you, the decision to finally take your health seriously. Where did that decision begin? It began in a quiet moment, when you finally stopped running and sat with yourself long enough to face the truth. Now here is the tragedy. Most people have that moment of clarity and solitude, and then they go right back into the noise, and the noise swallows the clarity whole. They forget what they discovered about themselves because they never gave themselves permission to sit with it long enough for it to take root. I want you to picture a farmer. A wise farmer does not just throw seeds into the ground and walk away forever. He returns, he waters, he waits, he protects the seed from the storm. Your best ideas, your deepest truths about who you are and what you want, they need the same kind of attention. They need solitude to grow strong roots before the world tries to trample them. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man full of ambition, full of dreams, but his life felt scattered. He woke up exhausted, even after 8 hours of sleep, because his mind never had a single hour of true rest. He was always reacting, always responding, always pulled in 10 directions by everyone except himself. One day, almost by accident, his car broke down on a quiet road far from the city, and he had to wait nearly 2 hours for help to arrive. No phone signal, no music, no people, just him, the wind, and his own thoughts. At first, he was restless. He paced. He felt anxious, the way most of us feel when the noise suddenly disappears and we are left facing ourselves. But after the first 30 minutes, something shifted. His mind began to slow down. And in that slowing down, thoughts began to surface that he had been avoiding for years. He realized he was not unhappy because of his job. He was unhappy because he had never once asked himself what he actually wanted from his life. He had been living someone else's plan, chasing someone else's definition of success, simply because he had never given himself the silence required to discover his own. By the time help arrived, that young man was not the same person who had broken down on that road 2 hours earlier. He had broken down, yes, but in the most important sense, he had also broken open. This is the secret, my friend. Solitude does not give you new information. Solitude reveals the truth that was always there, buried beneath the noise. The answers you are searching for outside of yourself are usually already inside of you, waiting for a quiet enough moment to be heard. Here is what most successful people understand that average people never grasp. Discipline is not built in public. Discipline is built in private. The early morning hours when no one is watching, the quiet moments of reflection when no one is applauding, that is where character is formed. That is where greatness begins, long before anyone in the crowd ever notices. You see, the world rewards what is visible, but it is created by what is invisible. The applause comes later. The discipline, the planning, the painful self-honesty, all of that happens alone, in solitude, far away from any audience. Let me ask you something important. How can you possibly know what you truly believe, what you truly want, what you truly value, if you have never sat alone long enough to ask yourself the question and wait patiently for the answer? Most people are not actually afraid of being alone. Most people are afraid of what they might discover about themselves if they stop distracting their own mind. They suspect somewhere deep down that there is unfinished business waiting in the silence. And so they keep the noise turned up year after year, decade after decade, avoiding a conversation with themselves that could change everything. I want you to think about this very carefully. You can drown out a problem with noise, but you cannot drown out a problem out of existence. The unresolved grief, the unspoken fear, the unexamined habit, it does not disappear because you refuse to sit with it. It simply waits, and it grows heavier the longer you avoid it. There is a lesson in this. The things we run from in solitude are usually the very things we most need to face. And the moment we finally face them, in the quiet, without distraction, without an audience, that is the moment real healing begins. Let me tell you about the power of a single quiet hour repeated daily. Not a vacation, not a retreat to the mountains, although that has its place. I am talking about one ordinary hour, taken from an ordinary day, used deliberately for reflection, for thinking, for planning, for listening to your own mind. 1 hour sounds small, does it not? But multiply that hour by 7 days, and you have 7 hours a week of deliberate self-examination. Multiply that by 52 weeks, and you have over 300 hours a year spent getting to know yourself, refining your thinking, sharpening your direction. Now compare that to the person who never takes that hour, who fills every single moment with noise, with scrolling, with distraction, with the opinions and demands of others. At the end of the year, one person has 300 hours of self-mastery. The other has 300 hours of further distance from himself. This is why two people can start with the same opportunities, the same talent, even the same circumstances, and end up in completely different places 10 years later. The difference was never luck. The difference was how each person used their solitude. Here is what most people do not understand about the great thinkers, the great leaders, the great builders throughout history. They were not simply busier than everyone else. They were quieter than everyone else at the right moments. They protected solitude the way a soldier protects ammunition, because they understood it was the source of their clearest thinking. Think about it. The philosopher needs solitude to think deeply. The writer needs solitude to create something meaningful. The leader needs solitude to make decisions that affect the lives of others without the fog of constant outside pressure. Even the athlete, in the final moments before a competition, retreats inward into a private silence to find their focus. If solitude is so valuable to the people who achieve extraordinary things, why do so many ordinary people avoid it like a disease? Let me tell you why. Because solitude requires honesty, and honesty is uncomfortable before it becomes liberating. In solitude, you cannot pretend. You cannot perform for an audience. You cannot blame your circumstances on someone else while no one else is in the room. It is just you, your choices, your habits, your thoughts, staring back at you without apology. Most people would rather stay comfortably confused in noise than become uncomfortably clear in silence. But let me tell you something. Comfortable confusion always leads to a painful life eventually. Uncomfortable clarity always leads to a powerful life eventually. The discomfort is the price of admission to a better future. Here is a powerful truth I want you to carry with you. You become who you are in the company of your own thoughts, not in the company of other people, although they shape you too. But ultimately, the conversations you have with yourself in solitude determine the direction of your entire life. If those internal conversations are filled with doubt, with self-criticism, with fear, your life will reflect that. If those internal conversations are filled with clarity, with discipline, with belief in your own potential, your life will reflect that instead. This is why learning to be alone well is not a luxury. It is one of the most important skills a human being can ever develop. Let me give you a picture that might help. Imagine your mind as a garden. In solitude, you walk through that garden alone, and you decide what stays and what gets pulled out. The fear that has been growing wild for years, do you pull it out or do you let it spread? The old belief that you are not capable of more, do you finally remove it or do you water it without realizing what it is becoming? If you never walk through your own garden in solitude, the weeds will grow on their own, without your permission, without your awareness, until one day you look at your life and wonder how it became so overgrown with doubt and regret. But the moment you start spending deliberate time alone, examining your own thinking, you become the gardener instead of the victim of an unattended garden. You begin to choose on purpose what grows in your mind, and what grows in your mind eventually becomes the life you are living. Now let me speak to those of you who are going through a painful season right now. Maybe you lost something important. Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe a dream did not work out the way you planned. I want you to hear this clearly. Solitude is not your punishment right now. Solitude is your medicine. The world will tell you to distract yourself from pain. Go out, stay busy, do not think about it too much. But sometimes the fastest way through pain is not around it, but through it, in the quiet, where you finally allow yourself to feel what you have been avoiding, process what you have been suppressing, and emerge on the other side stronger than before. There is a reason every great transformation in history, in every tradition, in every culture, involved a period of withdrawal before a period of breakthrough. The mountain, the desert, the quiet room. Before the great return, there was always the great retreat. Before the public victory, there was always the private struggle, faced alone. You are not broken because you need solitude to heal. You are wise if you finally give yourself permission to take it. Let me tell you something else that is rarely spoken about. Solitude is also where you learn to enjoy your own company. And here is why that matters more than almost anything else in life. If you cannot enjoy being alone with yourself, you will spend your entire life seeking validation, approval, and distraction from other people, simply to escape the discomfort of your own presence. But the moment you learn to enjoy your own silence, something remarkable happens. You stop needing constant noise to feel okay. You stop needing constant approval to feel valuable. You become a person who is whole on the inside, not because nothing painful ever happened to you, but because you have done the quiet work of healing and understanding yourself. This changes everything in your relationships too. The person who can be alone without falling apart is the person who shows up to relationships out of love, not out of desperation. The person who fears solitude often clings too tightly, fears too deeply, and loses themselves trying to avoid being by themselves. But the person who has made peace with solitude brings strength into every relationship instead of need. Here is a practical truth for you to take home tonight. You do not need hours of meditation in a quiet temple to begin this practice. You simply need to start small. 10 minutes a day with no phone, no noise, just you and your thoughts, asking yourself honest questions. What do I actually want? What have I been avoiding? What is one thing I know is true that I have been pretending not to know? Do this consistently and watch what happens over the next 90 days. You will begin to notice patterns in your thinking you never noticed before. You will catch yourself making decisions out of fear instead of purpose, and you will begin correcting course earlier and earlier each time. You will start to hear your own wisdom instead of only hearing the noise of the world telling you who to be. The moment you realize this, that the answers you have been chasing outside of yourself were always waiting quietly within you, your entire approach to life will shift. You will stop looking for someone to rescue you from confusion. You will start becoming the one who rescues yourself through reflection, through honesty, through the simple disciplined practice of being alone on purpose. One day you will look back and understand that the moments which changed your life the most were not the loud moments, not the crowded moments, not the moments filled with applause. They were the quiet moments, the early mornings, the long walks, the silent drives, the nights you sat with your own thoughts instead of running from them. You will look back and realize that solitude was never your enemy. It was your teacher the entire time, patiently waiting for you to stop being afraid of it. So here is what I want you to do, starting today, not next year, not next month, not when life finally slows down, because life never simply slows down on its own. You have to create the slowness yourself. Find 10 minutes, just 10. Turn off the noise. Sit with yourself. Ask yourself the honest questions you have been avoiding. Let the discomfort come. Let the clarity follow. Do this not once, but daily. Build it the way you would build any skill, with consistency, with patience, with respect for the process. And watch how your decisions become sharper. Watch how your confidence becomes steadier. Watch how your direction in life becomes clearer than it has ever been. Because here is the truth that I want you to carry out of this room and into the rest of your life. The world will always be loud. The world will always demand your attention, your time, your reactions. But your power, your clarity, your purpose, that will only ever be found in the quiet. You do not need more noise to find your way. You need more silence to finally hear it. So go, find the quiet room inside of you. Walk into it without fear. Sit with yourself like an old friend you have been neglecting for far too long. And listen, really listen to what your own life has been trying to tell you all along. The moment you make peace with solitude, you make peace with yourself. And the moment you make peace with yourself, there is no challenge in this world, no obstacle, no storm that you will not eventually walk through with calm, unshakable strength. This is your invitation, my friend, not to escape the world, but to finally meet yourself in the silence, and from that meeting, build a life so strong, so clear, and so purposeful that nothing loud will ever be able to shake it again. Go. Sit in the quiet. Your greatest breakthrough has been waiting there the entire time.